Hey, deserving listeners, Season 4, Love is Blind. Let's see what comes out of my face as I watch.
What can I do to get us back to the moment that we were having before? Before home came back into play.
Home will always been the play for me. I think.
Okay, so to catch you up, Jackie and Marshall have had a great day. I think their first day together in a Mexico resort, and she broke down crying. She started to think about the future. She started to think about returning home, and she started thinking about introducing him to her family. And I don't know what she's thinking about, what she's been through. I don't know if it was shame or trauma or worry of abandonment or chaos or something, but she started to cry, and he was being very caring and being with her. And she went into the bathroom, and he's outside trying to help, which is good. If I were a little birdie on his shoulder, I would say to him, instead of saying, how do I get you back to where we used to be, how about you just be with her in her sadness? To ask her, how do we get back to where we were before? It implies you don't like her, or you don't think it's okay or something. For her to be recognizing the reality of her situation and feeling the normal emotions of that. So a better question, because I think he has good intentions, and there's not a lot of guidance around this sort of thing. So I don't expect people to have the best option. And maybe this is what she needed to hear. I can't really know, but I think more generally speaking, what would be a more functional thing to say would be something like, do you want to talk? Do you want me to leave you alone? Do you want me to just sit next to you? Do you want me to tell you a story of my own? Or, what do you want from me right now? Wonder if for him he's anxious, like, uh-oh, what's happening? And his way of coping with it is to try to get her back. A lot of people will do this. Your partner will be suffering from something, and you worry by implication that they're going to go down a road and break up with you. It's not necessarily a rational thought, but it's a common thought. And so we will inadvertently try to stop them from having whatever experience they're going through, and it can feel alienating to the individual going through it. So, just being with someone, just being like, hey, what do you need? Or, hey, I'm just going to be sitting outside the door here. I'm just kind of browsing my phone, but I'll be thinking of you, and if you want to talk, I'll be right here. I'll put my phone down. We can talk, whatever you need. Or do you want me to walk around the block? Do you need some space? Or, whatever it is that you need in this moment. Just want to be there for you. Sounds like you're struggling. But I don't know. It sounds like she's not only that she's been through some rough situations, because I was completely speculating based on very little information that she has some trauma in her history, the somatic reaction that she had when she was talking with Marshall that one time in the pods has sort of pointed in that direction. It's not strong indication. So, and the way she talks about her family and her upbringing, her history, it sounds like there's been some difficulties in the past. I don't know, though.
Home will always been the play for me. I think this place right now is just temporary. I go back to that shit, man.
We talked about this.
So maybe they've talked about it either in the pods or away from the cameras when they're in Mexico. And she's saying, I don't want to go back to that shit. That doesn't sound pleasant. I mean, it's a weird way of saying it. It sounds like she's in a difficult situation, and she probably doesn't want to talk about it in front of the cameras, but she can't help but to say something about what she's going through emotionally. That's my guess, is that now that they're out of the pods and they're kind of back into the real world, they're in Mexico, but it feels more normal world outside the pods, right? In Mexico. So she is starting to, one of the gauges as to how your career is going is how if you work Monday through Friday, it's how you feel on Sunday, midday or in that evening. If you dread the week coming up, it says something. Doesn't mean that you should quit, no, but it just is a marker. And I imagine for her, she's having a version of that. It's analogous to that. She's like, oh no, this vacation is going to come to an end. I'm going to have to go back home. Oh crap. And then the rush of the future comes into the present and is traumatizing to her, it sounds like, terrifying. Where I think I don't know, it feels like shame. She's talked about how he's not the type of guy that she would normally go after. I think she didn't say this directly, but that she said the word elegant, that he dressed elegant. So I don't know what exactly, but I would imagine, given all the things she said about Marshall, that she thinks that he won't like her anymore once that she meets the family. The other thing that she said that I didn't include in the clips is that she said, when we go back, you're going to see the real me. I can't remember the way she phrased it, but she's like, I'm different when we go back home. I think she was implying that she gets maybe more distant and angry at times. I don't know what she would say, but not as relaxed, not as loving, not as vulnerable, maybe. I don't know. At least that's what her worry was. And he was saying, I'll be there with you. Again, if I was a little birdie on his shoulder, a lot of the things that he says is just like, we'll get through it. Everything's fine. I'm with you. And of course, that's a good message to give, but it might not land very authentic to her. I think a more authentic, a lot of the people on the show will do that kind of thing, this sort of over reassuring language that is in the right direction and of course could be very reassuring, but I'll just speak from my own personal experience. If people do that with me, it's not very reassuring because it doesn't reflect that you're really hearing what I'm saying. I think a more rational response from Marcia would be like, okay, so what are we talking about? And then maybe she gives an example and he says, okay, well, I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to that, but I'm committed to this relationship and we'll get through it. But, let's talk about it as we go. And if I feel like you're being unfair or distant with me, I'll say something and hopefully we can work through it. But I love you too much to not try. Something like that. It recognizes what you're being told, that you're not just blindly saying everything will be fine. And because if you're hurt, you're like, you say that, but I don't think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you.
I gotta go back to this shit.
You're not going back alone.
Yeah, the amount of health this season, it kind of runs the gamut. The amount of health, and I get chills thinking about this moment and other things that we've seen this season, the amount of maturity, the amount of emotional intelligence, the amount of support, vulnerability, tears, realness is tremendous. But then we have a side to this season that is perhaps the most problematic side we've ever had in Love is Blind. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let's talk about self-awareness. I'm often talking about a connection with the self, a connection with who you are, what you want, what you need, this kind of thing. And how for some people, since they weren't attuned to enough as a child, they don't have a strong connection with the self, and therefore they have to go through a lot of therapy to get in connection with the self. But really, I don't know anyone who doesn't cut themselves off from their needs. None of us were 100% attuned to 100% of the time. And of course, that's where therapy can help everybody. And as a therapist, I've witnessed clients discover mind-blowing aspects of themselves that really helped them in their lives. Well, that's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery wherever you are. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible to your schedule. So discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
You know that, right?
Yeah, I've talked about this before. I'm a professional listener to people as they cry, is one way to think about me being a therapist. It's not a constant, but clients cry often. People cry often. And for me, since my 27 years as a therapist and as a professor, I will experience a lot of people crying in a lot of different circumstances. And it's part of my job to create a space for that and to be with people with that. I get to know the way people cry and the way it sounds and the context. And I don't know, I would have to ask her, of course, but the kind of crying I'm hearing from Jackie right now is trauma. And trauma is obviously a pretty broad word, but is terror, is harm that has happened to her in the past. I can't know that, and no one can read people's minds. And of course, there's a lot of people on the internet that claim that body language, pseudoscientific body language people, eye movement people, all that is silly. So I don't want to propagate that notion. But I will say that that would be my first question if I felt like she was ready for the question and that she would want me to ask her, that she could answer. Well, I'd ask her an open-ended question of, what are your tears expressing right now? It's a question that I ask a lot. If your tears could talk, what would they say? What is your body going through right now? What emotions are coming up? What memories are coming up? Where are you going in your history is another question. Where do you, because I don't know, but there's a possibility that Jackie has spent a lot of time in the bathroom crying just like this in the past. And just think about the context. This is the first day of a honeymoon that I think is a couple weeks, maybe a week. And already she's crying about even just thinking about having to go back home. And I don't know if it's her family that she's worried about or other people or something. That's what's happening for her. And I feel horrible for her. The amount of pain and suffering that someone like Jackie goes through to have this kind of emotionality around something like this is tremendous. I mean, some of you know what that is like. And if you don't know, you're a lucky person. I don't personally know. I know by proxy because of how many people I've talked to and how many people are in my life who have been traumatized in these ways. But it's so unfortunate, it's so tragic. It makes me want to cry thinking about all the suffering of children and when they grow up and the trauma is, I say this in a respectful, joking way, trauma is the gift that keeps on giving. It just lasts your whole life, potentially, even with a lot of therapy, particularly if it's of a certain level. And in long term, when you're young, it really gets entrenched in your emotional life. And I think we're seeing evidence of that with her. I don't know, but we'll find out, I guess. Well, I don't know if we'll find out.
This shit is real.
I know.
I have so many people to take care of.
I know you're strong.
Did she say, I have so many people I have to take care of? And again, he's doing great on average. But if I was a little birdie, I'd just be like, just be with her. Don't try to fix it. Don't get distressed. This is probably going to happen for the rest of your life with her. She's going to occasionally, maybe even this very thing, go to the bathroom and cry because that's where she feels comfortable. And you being outside the door is great, and you're doing great, and you're caring, and your voice tone is great, and you're not rejecting, and you're not getting up in your head about it. It's really great what you're doing. And try to be with her. Reassurance is great, but she might not be ready for that, and it might not make any sense to her in this moment. It might be a fairly difficult situation. This is a part of therapist training, at least it's a part of therapist good training, that we have an impulse as human beings, or at least culturally or something, to reassure people, to try to fix it, right? And that's what he's doing. He's like, you're strong. We'll get through it together. Everything's going to be fine. And I'm exaggerating for effect. He's not in that tone, but verbally, it's in that direction. And as therapists, they will do that too. And it's out of anxiety. It is dismissing to people. It can feel invalidating. It can make it feel like your feelings aren't okay with other people. It also makes it feel like you are saying that if you just think positive, everything will be fine. You're thinking negatively. That's why you feel these feelings. And that can be very insulting to people, very alienating to people, because, of course, that's what they do all day long. All the minutes of the day where they're not crying, that's what they're doing. They're holding it together and they're thinking positive. But when they really think about it, they have a normal emotional reaction to it. And so to say, like, you just have to think positively, like, that's what I fucking do. That's what I get. That's why I don't do this all day long. So stop telling me to think positive about it, So, but he's doing great. Like, he's on the curve. He's better than 99% of other people.
I know.
I have so many people to take care of.
I have so many people to take care of. Yeah, that's what I thought she said. I have so many people to take care of. Huh. I don't know, but that's interesting detail to it. Interesting.
But you don't have to do this alone.
I'm just tired, that's all.
Yeah, makes me cry. So I think she opened the door for him to come in and, then he hugs her. So, yeah, there's a lot of pain there.
I know. I know.
It's a really beautiful moment of reality TV. I feel like if this was 90 Day Fiancé, they'd screw it up somehow. They'd, I don't know, be invasive, force them to talk about it, or I don't know. Or they'd say, like, this is too functional. We need to make this more dramatic. I don't know. So it's weird that we don't see stuff like this happen very often in reality TV. I just think of so many people on the show that this is what I would want them to experience, this kind of relationship. Darcy this is what I think she wants to do, is to cry in the bathroom and have someone prove to her that she can open the bathroom door and receive a hug without any complication that's secure. And so, it make me cry thinking about it again. But it's a really, really beautiful moment. And to really highlight the humanness of this, you can hear the heartbeat, unless they inserted it in, which would be weird, because they wear those lapel mics, right? So I think because they're hugging, it's pressing the microphone and you could hear at least one of their heartbeats. That's reality TV.
I know. I know. I know.
And she's being really healthy too. This is the pinnacle of health, to cry and to receive care, to reach out, to trust, and to model for the world how healthy humans exist.
I know.
Okay, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.